Greetings, everyone! Welcome to Dracovin Empire. Are you ready to dive back into the Demiplanes of Dread once more and head into the worlds of Ravenloft? I hope you do, because we're going to be learning about another Darklord today. An interesting one, as they can enter into any domain they wish. Any road may find you haunted by the Headless Horseman, or as he's known in 5th edition, the Headless Rider. The Horseman, the Rider, comes for you once more. So join me, take my hand. I will gate us safely through the mists, into the Demiplanes. Your host and guide, Candace. Remember, of course, to do a little bit of support here, like subscribing the bell, and leave me a comment what you know about this, what you think about this, its evolution through musicians. As we journey once more into Ravenloft. We've arrived! The mists have broken. So, sources. What you can look into yourself about this Headless Rider? Well, there are, of course, 3 books on which. Primarily, I would, of course, start with Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft from 5th edition. It's a good place for the small blurb they have. If you want to dive into depths about its true origins and information, and have a little bit more, then the Darklords book from 2nd edition Ravenloft would be a great place to start. And of course, for a little bit about some of the storyline related to From the Shadows adventure from 2nd edition also has. So, who is the Headless Horseman? Between the realms of the core of Ravenloft, at least in the old book, there was always told stories when the moon takes the shape of Death's Sickle, that something haunts the roads of Ravenloft, seeking to behead anyone whose footsteps hear him calling for him. No escaping his pursuit, thundering out of the darkness, overtaking the swiftest runners, leaving victims bleeding in his mouth. That is it. Nearly every domain haunted by the Horseman knows a different tale of origin. In Volkovia, a spirited victim of Drakov's men, wrongfully beheaded. In Barovia, spliced off his own head rather than fall prey to one of Strahd's minions, who later gave his head to Strahd. In Borka, a tale that is what they say is mostly true. Of course, there was a bard who had misfortune of meeting Ivana Orstidi, the Lord of Borka, invited him to private baths. She was in a fickle mood, and he was unable to entertain her. Inspired by sickle shapes of the moon, she beheaded him and continued to bathe in his blood. Headless body was cast in the river Larksta, and divided with the head known shore. It floated downstream, near to the road of Sturtbottom, where it became lodged beneath a bridge. When the sickle moon came again, the body rose. The dark powers gave the phantom a steed, a crescent-shaped blade, and now, every time the crescent moon rises, he sallies. Any road in Ravenloft may become his domain. He superimposes his road upon another, even implying an any road. Unlike other lords, he's imprisoned in this road, never leaving it, never being able to grant freedom from the bounds of his domain. He only exists to rob and slay. Where and how this appears? Mystically. Always at night of the sickle moon. You strike anyone, but the lonely stretches of roads and small groups, maybe even a single hapless victim, are the ones he seeks. One person alone is unlikely to survive, but a few have survived to tell the tale of the horse. He does have a number of unique abilities to tell. First and last to follow. So the first to follow is a mob of reanimated heads of his past victims that swarms around the survivor of his attacks en masse. Unfortunately, the second wave, and to face the third wave of attacks, is the last to follow. The last to follow is a group of reanimated heads of not humanoids, but monsters, Medusa's, Madar. Just because he passed by you and failed to decapitate you, doesn't mean there aren't other waves of attacks that come. The winding road is his domain. We'll talk about it. Now, during the Grand Conjunction, we do have some history because of, From the Shadows, of what was going on with him. This was strange, an anomalous role here. he was apparently serving the interests of Aslan, riding around and causing havoc in order to lure heroes that would be manipulated by Aslan to manipulate Hisoka's herald, or Hexen. They were directed to fight the horsemen by Soldari, where they ultimately defeated and decapitated, and their heads delivered to Aslan for unknown means. This is kind of out of character for him, to work for another Darklord's benefit anomaly, and he used a different ability than Last of All, a barrage of bounding beholders that finished off the last survivors. This doesn't mean he doesn't appear in other places, Tales of Ravenloft, 4th edition. 4th edition makes him a manifestation of the domain itself, rather than a direct Darklord, but again, it's between editions. Now, we don't have a picture of him in 5th edition, so I went for his Spellfire card here. Shout out to Spellfire, go check out my Spellfire videos. But this is where we go to his domain, which is different, the Rider's Bridge. Hey, I just remember I mentioned his previous area, the Winding Road. Now it's the Rider's Bridge. So put a bridge in the middle of it. Anyway, the Headless Rider is this version of it. It's still basically the Headless Horseman. Again, 5th edition, we still see every domain having a version of it, but rather just appearing in the core mainly, but any road. It's still the same that appears as a mercenary in dark armor, in Mordant, a ghostly cataract in Hathar, a mutated centaur, and Lemordia. So basically, in this case, he appears appropriately to whatever realm he's in. He basically morphs in with each realm, this Headless Rider. And that's kind of an interesting update to his lore in this way. But each incarnation, certainly details remain true. Missing its head, appears upon a prominent ridge, and it decapitates victims as enemy searches for its own head. Should someone escape the encounter with it, they can find themselves in a different domain on the opposite side of the spirit bridge. And they use the stats for the Dualahan in the book, His Guide. So that's a very interesting kind of update to his lore in a little bit of ways that we don't know it's more mysterious, and it incorporates itself into each one, which I like a lot. I like that part of it, that it makes it more of a unique creature. It still has the same stats, but it is uniquely themed to a realm. Let's talk about his realm. The Rider's Bridge, well, we don't know a lot about that. It's a bridge. It's a mysterious bridge that appears and tries to decapitate them. Very, honestly, Headless Horseman, the actual, myth Sleepy Hollow version of it, very feels like that. I mean, calling it the Headless Rider does walk away from Sleepy Hollow, but the bridge really screams Sleepy Hollow. I'm not gonna lie. The Winding Road, on the other hand, the older version of it, is kind of similar to this, but it is a little bit more manipulative. That road that randomly could have sinkholes that engulf a victim up to their waist, that allows, more attempts to behead them. The road that basically turns to follow victims, branching as it needs to be. Basically allow the horsemen to follow their footprints, and the footfall leaves prints on the road that can be easily tracked. Basically, the road, in a way, pursues those that try to run them. And only may possibly flying or levitating away, or leaping by magical means you try to escape the tracking forces as the victims are slowly tracked down by the horsemen. So yes, and the horseman can't reach a character in flight. The heads that it serves that aren't not bound by the surface of the road and can go after their heads. So it's first to follow, last to follow. But, I mean, there you go. There's the Headless Horseman, the Headless Rider. There isn't a lot to this. I think that's one of the big things about it. But it is a very fascinating creature because, again, we have a lot more lore about it in 2nd edition, but the lore about it is also simple. 2nd edition is very Sleepy Hollow-esque in a lot of ways. It is called the Headless Horseman, which is the, tale of Sleepy Hollow. And certainly speaking, walking away from that in a way was kind of good in 5th edition, but it's kind of interesting being the Headless Rider, which makes more sense because of some of the ways that it works now. But also, then the fact is it appears on a bridge instead of a road. Legend of Sleepy Hollow is very bridge-oriented. So, it is even more Tale of Legend of Sleepy Hollow. But again, I do like that in the new stuff, it integrates with the realm it's in a lot more, and it makes that cleverness of the road there. This is going to be a strange, misty bridge that just appears on these sickle nights, and then has a headless rider coming after you to behead you of some kind, fit for the realm you're in. And maybe you'll find yourself in a different realm on the other side, being a way to bridge between realms mysteriously. You walked into the rider's realm. As similar to some other Darklords, he has no true realm of his own. He supersedes himself, which is something that the old edition is. So this is a case where first and second edition lore, I think, are both really good and honestly fit each other very nicely. I do like both of them in a lot of ways. And yes, we don't have the floating heads of second edition, but we always give them some. We really want to in fifth edition. Who says you can't? It's fun. It's interesting. And this is a case where, yeah, we don't have as much lore in 5th edition, but certainly speaking, sometimes you don't need a lot. I'll leave it. I hope you enjoyed learning about the Headless Horseman / Headless Rider. This was an interesting one to dive into, and a fun. If you want to check out more of my stuff, whether it's more videos in the Darklords of Ravenloft, something else set in a other D&D related role-playing world, anything else like that, check out my other stuff, where I recorded live over on my Twitch side, along with some gaming that I do some variety gaming, or over on the YouTube side of things. My schedule for any of these things goes up online every week. That's on my social medias, which you can also see updates to those things going on in my life, cat pics, all that kind of stuff. That's my Discord, my Blue Sky, my Twitter/X, and of course, I do put some stuff over on the About page of my YouTube. Do remember to do the great things to support my channel. We appease the great dark algorithm, like, subscribe, ring the bell. Of course, let me know. What do you think about the Headless Horseman? Do you think there wasn't much of a need for as much lore that they had in 1st and 2nd edition for 5th edition, that they could keep it so simple? Or do you like that there was more, bigger lore in the older edition? Like, what do you think about these two sets of lore? They are very similar. There's not a lot of evolution here. It's a very simple kind of lore either way. But I do like both versions of it, from the road to the bridge. Both are very interesting locations and realms to me. So they feel a little different, but they also are still the same. Anyway, I'm going to get going, hang out with Twitch chat, maybe do some other stuff. But until the next time, I bid all of you a deep and wonderful farewell.